continue My Handmaid's Tale seasons 1 through 5 recap. We are finally in season 5. Spoilers ahead. We basically start off where season 4 left off. June is staring at herself in the mirror. She has just gotten back to Luke and Moira's house after doing what she did with all the rest of the handmaids and Martha's in Canada. You know, they met in no man's land. They killed Fred Waterford with their bare hands, and they have arrived back in Canada. June is basically like covered in blood, and Luke and Moira are like, what the heck happened? What's going on with you? And she just runs out of the house. She like cups Moira's face in her hands and is like, I did it, I killed Fred. And Moira's like, what the heck? And so she just like drives away, and Luke and Moira are very upset. She drives to a diner where she meets all the other women that were involved in this event. They all just like silently eat, and then they meet in the parking lot, and one of the women has shown June like she bought a bunch of like firearms to the parking lot, and she's like, I can get more of these. And she starts telling June that she would like to go into Canada, get Nick to help her bring her mistress, her wife of the commander that she was posted at, to the border so they could also kill her, or like she could torture her. And June is like, I don't think that's gonna work. Nick can't just bring people to the border. And the women start questioning June. They're like, we were there for you. We helped you with your monster. It's our turn for our monster. And June is like, that's not how this works. Like, I'm done. One of the women puts a gun at June, and she fires into the air, and they all scatter. And so June drives to go figure out where Emily is, and she drives to Emily's house, and she talks to her wife, and her wife lets her know Emily's gone. Emily decided to go back to Gilead to fight. Without really much of an explanation, June is like, well, it's my fault. Emily's wife is like, I don't care whose fault it is. I don't need someone to blame. She just decided to go. This is what she needed, and she left her family. June is feeling really, really guilty. I think she's starting to kind of snap out of her like whole vengeance mindset that she's been in for the last season. And she's realizing like, oh no, I committed a crime. So she goes to the police station. She calls Luke, and she's like, I'm going to turn myself in. And Luke is like, wait, what are you doing? No. But she goes in. She tells the police, hey, you know, I killed Fred Waterford. This is what happened. But because she did it in no man's land, they're like, we can't take you in. You're free to go. And so June is like, well, I expected to be arrested. And they're like, well, lucky day for you, I guess. So she goes home. And honestly, Luke and Moira are kind of afraid of her. And Moira even tells her that. Because, like, June offers to help, you know, bathe the baby and stuff. And then Moira's like, I would prefer if you didn't, you know, because I'm afraid of you. And June is like, you know, that's fair. We do cut to Gilead, and we see that Nick has been married. He married a woman named Rose, and they talk a little bit about June. She asks if June is okay, and like if she got what she needed, like alluding to the whole Fred thing, and Nick says yeah. So it looks like Rose knows quite a bit about June. We do see Serena get the news about Fred. Also, June sent one of Fred's fingers to Serena just so she knew for sure she was the one that did it. And so they're like transferring Serena to a different facility, and Mark lets her know this is what happened. We don't really know what happened. You know, we transferred him, and then he somehow got killed, and they found his body, you know. And so Serena knows like something else has happened. She goes to the morgue, identifies kind of what's left of his body, and as she's leaving the morgue, there are a bunch of like supporters for her, like holding candles, like having like a little vigil for her, and they like give her support. And she basically tells Mark, like, I need a funeral for my husband in Gilead. We need to take him home. So Mark arranges for her to take Fred back to Gilead to have this funeral. Fly to Gilead, and she meets with Commander Lawrence and Nick, and they have this conversation where Commander Lawrence is like, well, we'll just bury him where all the resistance fighters are buried. And she's like, that doesn't seem very fitting for a commander. And Commander Lawrence is like, well, tough luck. But then Serena threatens him, and she's like, you know what? June could not have acted alone. There's no way. So unless you want your secrets to be spilled, you better give my husband a fitting funeral. Lawrence is kind of pressured into making Fred's funeral like this big international affair. You see them as they're getting ready for the funeral. The Putnams have offered to have like this little reception in their home for her. And so, you know, things are kind of awkward. Mark is there, but Mark is not really allowed into certain rooms, so he kind of has to sit by the sidelines. While that's happening, we do see Janine has been really helpful in the Red Center with Aunt Lydia. We see like she's kind of like her right-hand woman, and Esther's still there, and Janine's really been pouring into Esther, trying to get her to be compliant, and she just keeps telling her like, you know, keep your mouth shut, keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be fine. So she gets told by Aunt Lydia that because she's done such a good job with Esther, that they're going to take Esther to the Putnam's residence during a little reception for the funeral. And if they like Esther, then they're going to use her as their handmaid. Jean obviously is very excited at the prospect of seeing Charlotte more, and she asks Aunt Lydia, like, oh, if Esther gets posted there, can I go visit? And Lydia's like, don't get too ahead of yourself. So you see them at the reception for the funeral, and Aunt Lydia introduced Esther to Mrs. Putnam, and Mrs. Putnam's like, whatever. And so she goes to introduce Esther to the commanders. She walks into a room full of commanders, and she introduces Esther, and Commander Putnam is like, okay, everyone can leave the room. You too, Aunt Lydia. And Aunt Lydia is very uncomfortable, like she obviously senses something's wrong, but she leaves Esther alone in the room with Mr. Putnam, and Commander Putnam gives her some chocolates in a very gross manner. He's like feeding her chocolates, and you can tell like something terrible is going to happen in that room to Esther. She's kind of dealing with a lot of her crazy feelings towards Serena, and she is in the kitchen with Rita, and she's trying to get Rita to talk about Serena, about like how she doesn't like Serena, and Rita's like, I don't want to talk about it. And Jean reminds her of like the baby shower that happened during season 1, and how like Rita was slapped in the face because Serena couldn't like hurt June. And Moira and Rita are like, please shut up. We don't want to talk about it. We're not like you. We don't want to talk about Serena. We have enough problems. Rita's like, just because I was in a handmaid doesn't mean I didn't deal with trauma like you, so please stop. So June is kind of dealing with realization, like she is so obsessed with Serena, she really needs to dial that down. We see June and Luke go to the ballet in the city, and while that's happening, we see like cut back to Gilead with this giant funeral that's happening for Fred. It has become a giant international affair. June and Luke leave like the theater. They're walking through the city. They look at these giant screens and they see the funeral, and then they see the worst thing ever. Serena has arranged for their daughter Hannah to be standing next to her during the funeral and to give her flowers as a kind of F you to June. And we see June and she's livid. That evening we see Nick has met with Mark, and Mark is kind of letting Nick know, like, we would like to use you as an asset. You are very helpful. Like, if you would like to get out of Gilead, please let us know. If you are willing to work with us, we'd really appreciate it. And Nick tells Mark, like, I'll think about it. Thanks so much. But, like, he's a commander now. He has a lot of responsibilities, and he has his wife now. So, like, I don't think he wants to get his hands too dirty. Later at the Red Center, we see Esther has arrived back with Janine. She pulls out some chocolates out of her pocket, and she's like, hey, I stole these from the Putnams. And Janine's like, oh, that's fun. So they start eating chocolate. And then Esther starts telling Janine, when I first met you, I really didn't like you. And honestly, I was right. You're a terrible person. And Janine's like, what are you talking about? And Esther's like, you don't care about me. You're using me to get to Charlotte. You didn't ever care about me. Then all of a sudden, both of them start coughing up blood. And it's revealed that Esther has poisoned the chocolates, and she's intent on killing both her and Janine. And so Lydia finds them coughing up blood. Both of them have fallen into a coma. We do see, it's kind of sweet, Mrs. Putnam has gone to visit Janine in the hospital. She's brought Charlotte, and they're praying for Janine to wake up. And we see Lydia is like completely devastated for Janine because she loves Janine so much, and to see her in a coma, it's very worrisome. And so obviously they keep praying for Janine, and Janine does finally wake up, and she's obviously very upset with everything that's gone on. And Lydia is just very much like intent on showing Janine, like, hey, I'm there for you, and I will work on being kinder to the handmaids. We do see Serena go before the council at Gilead because she really wants to go back to Gilead and be home and have her baby there. But the council basically tells her to go back to Canada and to be like this diplomatic image person for Gilead in Canada to kind of like get more support from people. So she goes back, and we see Serena has been given like this like Gilead center in Canada. She's like working on like just improving their relations there. June and Moira kind of have a contact with this group in like Nomad's Land that have been like, they have outposts all over the border. And so they get a little bit more information about how they work there. Back in Gilead, we do see that Serena has gone to dinner with the Mackenzies, who have Hannah. Lawrence and Nick and his wife, they've all met for dinner, and we kind of learned that Commander Lawrence is looked down upon because he's unmarried. Serena kind of approaches him later and is like, hey, you don't have a wife, I don't have a husband. Maybe like marriage, that would help both of us. But that doesn't work out. Obviously, the Mackenzies hate June, and they talk a little bit about how they despise June, and obviously they're in good company because Serena also hates her. But Nick, he cares for June, and he really wants to make sure that she's okay. So June later calls Nick, and they talk on the phone. Nick lets June know that he knows where Hannah is. She has been sent to a wives' school, and so June and Luke are beside themselves because that's terrible. They're training Hannah to become a Gilead wife. Disgusting. Serena goes back to Canada, and she's greeted by a bunch of supporters. So, tides are kind of changing in Canada. People are more warm to Serena and the Gilead values, unfortunately. And while she's in the car, June, finds the car, walks up to the window, and is like, rah, So, Serena's like, get the fuck away from me, thank you. And June is like, stay away from my daughter. And so, things between June and Serena, not great. Tensions are really high in Canada, and, we see June at a park with Nicole. She's pushing her on the swing, and this crazy lady comes up to her and starts talking about Gilead and basically calls her a slut and is like, you don't deserve your daughter, and tries to take her daughter. It's a whole thing, and June takes Nicole away, but you can just sense things, the political tides are very tense. We see Aunt Lydia trying to change her ways a little bit this season. She's so concerned for Janine, and she's kind of made Janine a promise to make things better. So she approaches Commander Lawrence and basically says, I have a new idea for the handmaids. How about instead of sending the handmaids to their postings to live with the commanders and their wives, why don't we just leave them here at the Red Center, and then they could, the commanders could come once a month, do their business, and then they could leave, and so they'll be under my care and I can protect them. And Commander Lawrence is like, are you kidding? No one would sign up for that. He's like, the commanders are pious men. They need a little bit of kink in their lives, and they want the handmaids to live in their house so they can smell them as they walk by. It's gross. So Aunt Lydia is realizing oh, all the commanders suck. How did you not know that before? So we do see Serena at the Gilead Center. We see a bunch of protesters outside of the Gilead Center, and we see Moira's there. June walks up, and someone is arguing with Moira, anti-protesters. This man punches Moira in the face, and June brings out the gun that she was given at the beginning of the season, and she fires it into the air, but then Luke is like, we gotta get out of here, get the heck out of here. So they start running, and as they're running away from the scene, we see Serena get taken out of the building by her bodyguard Ezra, and they kind of run into each other, and June kind of has the opportunity, if she wanted to kill Serena, but she kind of looks at Serena and sees her baby bump, and she doesn't do it, but you could tell she's real pissed and she hates Serena so much. So they part ways. Serena gets taken to the Wheelers household. They're a Gilead family. The husband is a commander. She's taken into their home and given a room. And right away, you can tell that Mrs. Wheeler is just so consumed with obsession over Serena's baby. Serena starts getting the vibe oh, I'm kind of being treated like a handmaid almost. They're just so obsessed with Serena's baby, and they're so obsessed with keeping her in the house, so they're not letting her walk outside, and she's feeling really trapped and very uncomfy in their house. One thing I forgot to mention is while Serena was at the Gilead Center, Luke approached her and they had a conversation, and Serena's just vile, and she basically tells Luke you're a bad father and cheated on you with Nick, and June did all this stuff to help Hannah, but where were you? Why didn't you do enough? And she's just vile. And so when bad things happen to Serena, honestly, we have to remember she deserves them. Because sometimes I'm oh yeah, maybe Serena's gonna grow from this, but then I'm no, she's terrible. June and Luke go into Nomad's Land to go meet a guardian that has some more information on Hannah. Luke has been encouraged by Serena's words to absolutely do more, so he goes there with June. They meet this guardian, this young boy who's been kind of stationed up in this old bowling alley, and they kind of hang out with him throughout the night, play bowling. Luke are growing closer together, and I think their marriage is getting a little bit stronger. And as they're heading back to the border, the guardian is trying to take them a different route to get there faster, but then he steps on a landmine and he blows up, and they start running, but all these eyes have been alerted to where they are, and then Luke and June get captured and taken to a different location. And poor Luke, he's never really had to go through this particular scenario before, so he is very defiant. June is trying to keep him safe, comply, don't do anything. Later on, we do see Luke get taken by a bunch of people back to the border. June doesn't know this, and June is like, where are you taking him? And she gets taken elsewhere. She gets put on a different bus. Back at the Wheeler household, the commander has told Serena that they have captured June, and Serena kind of begs him to let her be a part of the execution. When they execute June, she really wants to be there when it happens. And so despite his wife's best wishes, the commander says, sure, you can be a part of killing June. that works. And so Serena gets allowed to leave the house. Before she does, like, the wife really is just in her face. Not great. But Serena goes with her bodyguard Ezra to where June has been dropped off by this bus. June gets off the bus and she turns around and she sees Serena. And June is like, great, I'm gonna die. So June gets on her hands and knees and the bodyguard points a gun at her. And Serena's like, no, I want to be the one. I want to do it. She killed my husband. Let me do it. So the bodyguard's like, sure. So he hands her the gun. And you're pretty darn sure Serena's going to pull the trigger. But then all of a sudden she turns the other way and shoots the bodyguard. And then she instructs June to get in the car. And they leave the bodyguard there. He's not dead. He's just injured. But while they're driving, Serena starts having contractions. She's going into labor. Esther has woken from her coma, and Aunt Lydia is notified that Esther is 3 weeks pregnant. And so Lydia puts 2 and 2 together, and she realizes that Mr. Putnam clearly left her in that room that she left her with before. And she approaches Esther and is like, you can tell me, dear, what happened. At first she like kind of victim blames Esther. She's like, did you do anything to entice him? And Esther's like, absolutely not, didn't do anything. He essayed me and here we are. And so Lydia is furious and she approaches Commander Lawrence, and Mr. Putnam essayed Esther. And this kind of starts the wheels turning in Commander Lawrence's brain, because we see that Commander Lawrence and Commander Putnam have had a conversation, because Commander Lawrence has like this new idea for Gilead. He wants to build New Bethlehem and make it like a place where refugees could come back into the country and kind of set up shop there, and it'd be a little bit more lenient. It would welcome people back to the country, and it would make like relations better between the different countries. And Commander Putnam is completely against this, and he's kind of mocks Commander Lawrence about like how this is a dumb idea. But now that Commander Lawrence has this information on Commander Putnam, he can use it to his advantage. While the Putnams are eating breakfast at this restaurant, everyone's kind of looking at their direction, and Naomi's like, why is everyone staring at us? And Commander Putnam's like, well, what I did, just know that I did for our benefit. And all of a sudden the eyes come and take him to the front of the restaurant where Commander Lawrence and Nick are. And basically they said that he has violated property that is not his, and they shoot him and they execute him. And so Naomi sees it happen. But then later we see Aunt Lydia take the handmaids and Janine to the wall where Commander Putnam is hanging there. And Janine's like, wish I would have been there to see it. And Aunt Lydia's like, let's move along. So he is dead. We're back with Serena and June, and Serena is giving birth. They crash the car, and June takes Serena to like an abandoned farmhouse where she helps Serena give birth. And obviously they hate each other. Like, June hates Serena so much, but she's not going to leave Serena to die. She's not going to leave Serena to give birth to her baby alone. So June helps Serena through it. Like, she gives birth. Serena calls her baby Noah. Serena's not doing so hot. So, like, she has a fever. She's like, let's go back to Canada to go to a hospital. And Serena's like, I can't go back because, obviously the Wheelers have made it very clear that she is basically their handmaid and they're going to take her baby because she's not married. And Serena's like, I'm okay to die because I've served my purpose. I've been the vessel. I've given birth to this baby, and I want him to go to someone that was meant to be a mother like you. So she's like giving June her baby, and June is like, no, you are his mother. This is your baby you prayed for, you waited for. You're going to live. This is your purpose, to be his mother. And so June kind of gives her a pep talk, and she gets Serena to a hospital in Canada. Who goes to the hospital, to get June. And basically Serena, though, is arrested at the hospital. They told her like, oh, you've entered the country illegally. So now you're going into custody, and your baby is basically getting sent to the Wheelers, which is like the last thing she wanted. So we do see Serena in custody. June does visit her later on, and Serena begs June to basically help her and vouch for her. And June is like, we're not friends, Serena. And Serena's like, well, you can't deny that we have a bond. We've been through so much together. And June is like, a lot of the things we've been through, you've put me through. I am not your friend, and I'm not going to help you. Serena is obviously very upset by this, but we later see Commander Lawrence visit her, and he basically has arranged for her to go live with the Wheelers and, be able to feed the baby and stuff, and she'll be safe and out of prison. And so Serena agrees, and obviously the moment she gets there, Mrs. Wheeler just hates her so much. So again, tensions are rising in Canada, and more people are like trying to get refugees out of their country. A lot of people are siding with Gilead. A lot of people just hate like June and other refugees. And so we see a lot of people protesting. Commander Lawrence contacts June and lets her know like, hey, I am making this new place called New Bethlehem. I'd love for you and your family to move to New Bethlehem. You'll be safe, and we can transfer Hannah to New Bethlehem after she gets married. And so June is honestly a little bit enticed by this idea, but like Luke is like, absolutely not. Clearly they don't want their daughter to be married off to some weirdo. And so like they want to get Hannah out. They don't want her to get married to anyone in Gilead. They want to save her before she's married. Later on they get like a CD, a video of Hannah at this like wives training center. And because they have a little bit more intel, Mark lets them know like, hey, we know where she's located. We're going to go send 3 planes across the border for like a rescue mission. And June is so beside herself. She's so excited. And so they have hope that Hannah's going to be rescued. But then we find out that the mission has been thwarted. They found out like what was going on, and the planes that they sent have been like gunned down. And June calls Commander Lawrence and she's like, what the heck? Commander Lawrence is like, well, you know, we had to defend ourselves. And June is like, what are you talking about? And still offers her like, you know, the place in New Bethlehem. But June is so angry with him and basically reminds him like that she saw his wife die. She saw his wife overdose. She's like, your wife hated you. She wanted nothing to do with you. And this is so hurtful to Commander Lawrence because obviously he loved his wife and he feels so much guilt on behalf of his wife. But this is just like, you know, it's just so much. We do see later on that Commander Lawrence has basically proposed to Mrs. Putnam. He's proposed to Naomi because obviously he looks like he doesn't have enough power because he's not married and he needs more respect. So Naomi, even though he's basically the one that killed Commander Putnam, she agrees to marry Commander Lawrence. So we see Commander Lawrence talking to Mackenzie, who, you know, is the father of Hannah and Gilead. And basically he tells Commander Lawrence, we really gotta like figure out what to do with June. Let's take care of her. And now Commander Lawrence is like, well, sure, let's just take care of her, I guess. And so we see June walking on the side of the road in Canada near her home. And all of a sudden this truck appears with like a Gilead bumper sticker and runs her over, tries to run her over again. And thankfully Luke is able to run out and he takes the driver out of the driver's seat and he's like beating him. And the driver falls to the ground. They contact the authorities. June gets taken to the hospital, treating Luke like he's the bad guy, even though he's the one that saved his wife in self-defense. Later on, they find out that this man has died, and so they're blaming Luke, and there's a warrant out for his arrest. So before this incident, June had met with Nick and basically was asking him to give up Gilead, or like if it's possible to go and like be stationed where Hannah is just to take care of her. And Nick is like, I have other responsibilities. I'm married. My wife is pregnant. So we learn like Rose, his wife, is pregnant. Then once he finds out what happened to June, he approaches Commander Lawrence on his wedding day and punches him in the face. And because he's so angry at what he's done to June, what he's allowed to happen to June. And Nick gets taken to a prison, and he's later approached by his wife in prison, and his wife is super disappointed that like clearly he still loves June, and she's like, I'm pregnant, I don't need this. So she leaves the prison and Nick is just there. Now Serena's situation has not improved. She's still at the Wheelers household and they just hate her so much, but she is able to kind of convince them to let her go to that center to like be like a little face for them, and they agree to let her go, but Mrs. Wheeler like hits her in the face and it's just a whole thing. But they let her out of the house to go here, and we see like their Martha kind of directs Serena to the back of the building to like take care of the baby. But Serena sees her way out and she just runs out the back door, hitchhikes away, and so she has escaped with her baby. Because Janine is feeling better, she has been stationed at Commander Lawrence's household. So we see her being brought before like Naomi, and you know, she's really excited to be there and to see Charlotte and stuff. But then she kind of loses her mind on Naomi because like she finds out what happened to June. So out of anger, she basically goes off on Naomi, and later on she is taken from their household, and we don't know what happened to her, but you know, she is arrested for like going off on Naomi, and Aunt Lydia is furious, but Janine is taken elsewhere. So June and Luke have been alerted by Rita that, you know, like there's a warrant out for Luke's arrest. So June and Luke book some flights. They're about to leave, but then Mark approaches them and is like, hey, you know, the police are going to be waiting for you at the airport to arrest Luke. So I've arranged for you to have like different transportation documents. Go to the train station and the train will get you to a safe place. So they go to the train station, but unfortunately, while they're waiting there, they do get separated a bit, and Luke is like, I'm going to make a distraction so you and the baby can get on the train without being noticed. And June's like, please don't leave us, no. But Luke sacrifices himself. He turns himself in so her and her baby, Nicole, can get on the train. And so June watches from the window as Luke is arrested, and she's obviously very upset. As she's walking down the train, she hears like another baby crying, and she starts walking towards that area of the train. And then who's there? It's Serena and her baby Noah. And they see each other, and they're standing across from each other, kind of shocked to see each other, and then the season ends. That's how the season ends. Season 6 picks up where season 5 leaves off. Like, we see them on that train. The whole season has been an interesting one for June, because like in season 4, she was so set on vengeance that like it consumed her. And I feel like this season was a bit of a wake-up call. Like, she's getting a little bit more out of like the whole vengeance mindset, because she's had more opportunities to kind of resolve some things with Serena. But obviously, like, Serena has not done enough to kind of warrant forgiveness. But they have been through some pretty traumatic things together through the season. Sets you up for where they are next season. It made me really sad, some of the things that happened this season. Like, some characters like Commander Lawrence, like, obviously he's not like a great person. He's made really bad decisions. But I was kind of disappointed by some of his actions at the end of season 5. We got Aunt Lydia, who's kind of growing a little bit. You can see her kind of trying to turn a new page with Janine, trying to make things better for the Handmaids. She was really advocating for the Handmaids, because in another scene, she goes to Commander Lawrence before she finds out like even what happened to Esther, just trying to advocate for better conditions for the Handmaids. So I think she's realizing like, yeah, the commanders suck. They don't care about any of these women. And, you know, she is trying to advocate for them. Lydia has always been this big monster. So seeing her trying to change and trying to make things better for the Handmaids has been interesting. But yeah, season 5 as a whole, yeah, it was a hard season to watch, not gonna lie. Not a whole lot of fun moments in that season. It kind of sets us up for how the series ends in season 6. And it's definitely a worthwhile watch. But yeah, what did y'all think about season 5?